Welcome to A Leader's Journey, the podcast for leaders who deeply believe there is a better way to lead and desire to create their unique journey towards becoming a legacy leader. I'm your host, Shannon Hammond. Over the last 20 years as a corporate leader and leadership performance coach, I've learned that many leaders believe there is a predefined path they have to follow and struggle leaning into their unique gifts that will create lasting impact and fulfillment. They end up feeling stuck, unhappy, and unfulfilled in the day-to-day of their role, and are challenged with why, since they have experienced success in their career and in life. I'm here to help leaders think through their leadership journey, learn how to ask themselves better questions, and learn the formula to create their leadership journey by design. If you are ready to design your unique leadership journey, lead with confidence, and love the teams you lead, then you are in the right place. Let's do this. Hello, my friends and fellow leaders. Welcome to A Leader's Journey. I'm your host, Shannon Hammond, and I'm glad to have you back here with me this week on the podcast. And if this is your first time tuning in, welcome. I'm so happy that you are here. I know that your time is valuable, and I'm truly grateful that you have chosen to spend some of it here with me, and that you are taking the time to invest in your growth and development as a leader. Have you ever found yourself stuck in decision paralysis? You have a decision to make, whether it's a big decision or a small one. You're overthinking it, making sure that you dot every I and cross every T to ensure it's 100% accurate. You start to second guess yourself and you think that you need more information. So you start doing research and you find yourself down this rabbit hole of trying to figure it out. Multiple days may have gone by, people are waiting on you, and you still don't know what your decision is. If this is you, I want you to know that you are not alone. This is common for emerging leaders, which is why today on the podcast, I'm going to break down with you why leaders struggle with decision making, and I'm going to share with you a simple 3-step framework that will help you break free from it. Emerging leaders often second guess themselves, leading to delays and lost confidence. This happens for a number of reasons, and I want you to know that as you continue to invest in your development as a leader, you will be able to navigate decision-making more effectively. The root cause of decision paralysis for a new leader comes from fear of failure, imposter syndrome, and perfectionism. Fear of failure shows up because you have a desire to be successful, and you want to focus on making the right decision. We've constantly heard things like, if you're not first, you're last. Don't screw it up. You better get it right. If you want it done right, you better do it yourself. It's all conditioned us to believe that mistakes are not allowed to happen, that they are a bad thing. Naturally, it's created a sense of fear of failure because you don't want to be the one that screwed it all up. It also doesn't help others, especially in a work environment. They look at that person that makes mistakes in a negative light, and that's not an accurate representation of them. They're the ones to not get promoted if you're one that's constantly making mistakes. You'll get in trouble with your boss or with HR. We've heard it all that's happened. You spend too much time fearing failure when really you need to be embracing failure and seeing the gift of growth that failure is giving to you. If fearing failure is something you struggle with, I want you to take a listen to episode 41 where I talked about facing failure and in that episode, I share with you the strategies that you can take to be able to face it and embrace it. Imposter syndrome is also one of the things that gets in the way of decision making. This is also a fear, yet it is a fear of not being enough. It's an inner voice telling you that you are not good enough, which causes you to doubt yourself. You judge yourself, you tell yourself that you are less than you really are, and inherently it becomes a major belief. And since you've been telling the universe that you are not good enough, it gives that back to you. It stops you in your tracks from making decisions. Imposter syndrome is going to show up for leaders, especially emerging leaders, since you will find yourself in many new situations and experiences. When you can again learn to embrace imposter syndrome and shift your mindset around it, you'll see how it can serve and support you in your leadership journey versus letting it hold you back. Perfectionism is also one of the root causes. It's the desire and the need to always get it right and to hold yourself to an extremely high and unachievable expectation. This is one that I struggled with early in my leadership. And just in full transparency, it's something that I find myself struggling with at times, even though I've been in a leadership role for 20 years. It comes up, and you want to make sure that everything you do is at that high level, and you put these unrealistic expectations on yourself to show up in a certain way. And having been in a leadership role for so long, sometimes the story I tell myself is, I've been doing this for so long, I better get it right. And that leads down to that perfectionism, which isn't healthy. Now, as a new leader, you want others to believe that you were promoted for the right reasons, that you have the answers, and you know what you are doing. All of that is coming from a good place, yet it's also holding you back. No one expects you to have all the answers but you. And no one is expecting you to be perfect except you. Now, all of these issues cause you to overthink your decisions, and they are negatively impacting your effectiveness as a leader. It gets you all in your head. And while you need to think about the decisions that you make as a leader, when we stay in our heads about them, we don't make effective decisions. Leaders do need to be quick about the decisions that they make. Doesn't mean that you rush them. It means that you can take a look at a situation, think it through, and make a decision. Indecision costs organizations and leaders time, money, and resources. They hold you and your team back from making progress and getting done the work that needs to happen. Indecision can cost a leader their role if it becomes too much of an issue and it is starting to negatively impact their performance or the performance of a team. Every leader needs to be able to make decisions. Your team is looking to you to lead the way, and when you hesitate or you struggle to make decisions, you'll lose trust from your team, and they won't feel confident that you are the right person to lead them. When you lose trust from your team, you are going to have to work twice as hard to get it back. Now, we've talked about the root causes and the cost of indecision in leadership. Remember, some of those root causes is fear of failure, it's imposter syndrome, it's perfectionism. Now, I really want to get to that simple 3-part framework that will help you in overcoming decision paralysis. We don't need to overcomplicate this or overthink it. That's what's got us here in the first place. So with this framework, we are really going to be keeping it very, very simple. So let's dive in and start with part 1. Part 1 is gather just enough information. Perfection is the enemy of progress. Remember, that's one of our root causes that got us here in the first place. You have to learn to act with the data that you have and believe that you know enough to move forward. You don't need to do a deep dive in a topic and become the subject matter expert. You also don't want to go to the other extreme and make decisions from a place where you don't have any information. This is going to be all about balance between having enough information to make a decision, but making sure that you are not putting yourself in a place where you are completely uninformed. I recommend to new leaders that they determine what the 3 to 5 most critical pieces of information are, gather that information, and be done. I found that 3 to 5 is usually that good middle ground where you have enough to know what to do, but it's not going to leave you in a place where you don't have the right information. And again, I said it's the 3 to 5 most critical pieces. Now, When you're first getting started in a leadership role, you might not know the 3 to 5 most critical pieces of information right from that start. This is something that you can build and you will learn over time. Until you get there, make sure you have just enough information to know what the situation is, what are the key factors that are contributing to it before you move forward. And the key word in here is just. Just means that there is a stopping point in gathering information where you are going to be able to take action. It means that you're moving forward and you're not getting bogged down in the research. It means you don't need to know it all. You need to know just enough, which, by the way, you know more than you're giving yourself credit for, but that's a deeper conversation for another time. Know just enough, gather the information, and I would recommend that as you work through situations, you are going to find that there are very common situations that consistently come up. Make a log, keep a journal for yourself of what are the 3 to 5 most critical pieces of information. So when you find yourself in a similar situation, you have a reference point that you can go back to that says, I need to know these things before I can move forward. All right, step number 2 in our framework, make a decision based on core values. You can never go wrong when you lean into your values. Now, you do need to know what the values of your organization are and what your personal values are before you can start leaning into them. Then align your decisions with those values and your leadership principles. Your values are your guiding principles. And when you align your decisions with your values, your decisions come so easily, it's almost hard to believe. One of my key values is integrity, which I have defined that for me as doing what I say and saying what I do, and it's always doing the right thing for that situation. When I'm evaluating a decision that I need to make, I think back to things that I have shared with others about who I am as a leader and the things that I've said I will and will not do. Then I use that to frame my decision. So if I've said that I will not tolerate others being disrespectful to my team, yelling at them or cursing at them, when that happens, and unfortunately it does, it's easy for me to make the decision to address it immediately and to step into the hard conversation, whether that conversation is with one of my internal partners or with one of our clients. I don't need to overthink it or question what I need to do because my values have already shaped that decision. And I'm going to lean back into step 1 of that framework. I know my values, and then now I'm going to lean into that step 1. And I'm going to make sure that before I go into that conversation, I have that 3 to 5 critical pieces of information. Because when I take that and I align it with my values, again, I don't need to overthink it or even really think about it or question it too much because I already have everything that I need to make that decision. All right, step 3 in our 3-part framework is to review and adjust as needed. No decision is final. Learn and pivot when necessary. Take the time to evaluate your decisions. How did they turn out? Did you get the results that you were hoping for? How did the other person involved respond to the decision that you make? Now that you've had that experience, is that something that there's a piece of it, or maybe it's all of it, that you would do differently next time? You might even find that you need to make a different decision immediately. It happens. So don't be hard on yourself. It doesn't mean that you failed. It just means that what you decided didn't work and you have the opportunity to do it again. This is a key part of being comfortable with embracing failure. Not every decision that you are going to make is going to be right the first time. Learn and pivot. I tell my team all the time, everything is fixable because it really is. Doesn't mean fixing it is going to be easy or that we're going to enjoy it. And you might have to be vulnerable to say that you made the wrong decision and you are here to correct it. And I am going to encourage you to very much be vulnerable and acknowledge when you made the wrong decision. Again, nobody's expecting you to be perfect but you. And when you make a wrong decision and you acknowledge it and you take ownership of it and you step into being a part of the solution to correct that decision and evaluate the next decision that you need to make, you are going to earn credibility and trust with the people that you're working with. Because again, they're not expecting you to be perfect. That's just you, right? Be vulnerable, take ownership, reevaluate, and pivot. Everything can be fixed. So don't get stuck in that whatever decision you make is final and set in stone, because nothing is set in stone unless you decide that it truly is. All right, that's my 3-part framework. Again, it's gather just enough information, make your decision based on core values, and review and adjust as needed. That's it. It's simple and you can implement it. It may be hard at first because not everything that's simple is easy. I want to encourage you to step into it and work through the process. Get out of your head and don't overthink it. And give yourself grace that as you start to implement this framework, it might be a little bit clunky at first, and you're going to have to find your groove in working through it. This is also a great time to break out your journal and write about what's coming up for you and where you are getting stuck in decision paralysis. If you're still struggling with decision making after you work through that, reach out and schedule your level up your leadership assessment call so that we can uncover together your decision making challenges and identify what your decision making strategy is. I hope that you found this episode valuable, and I appreciate you tuning in with me this week, and you're walking away feeling supported and confident in the decisions that you need to make, and that you feel like you have the tools that you need to make decisions with more confidence. I hope you tune in with me each week here as we discuss strategies, development needs, and the mindsets of new leaders that you can leverage to step confidently into the right leadership roles for you. Until next time, my fellow leaders, lead with confidence, show up every day as the leader you are striving to be, and make the decision today to level up your leadership this year. Thanks for listening to A Leader's Journey podcast. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you're excited to learn more, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and tune in next week for another exciting leadership lesson. I'd love to help you level up your leadership, achieve the goals you desire, and design your unique leadership journey. So click the link in the show notes to schedule a free Level Up Your Leadership session. During this time, we will define where you are in several key areas of leadership, where you desire to be, and how you can level up your leadership. You don't need to do this alone, so let's chat today and get your journey started. Don't forget to connect with me on LinkedIn or in the A Leader's Journey community on Facebook, and share this episode with another leader so we can all learn and grow together. That's all for this episode, and I'll see you next week. Until then, lead with confidence, show up every day as the leader you are striving to be, and make the decision today to level up your leadership this year.